Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Basketball Conference, the ACC Football Podcast. My name is Joey Weaver. He is Mike McDaniel. Mike, it's good to be back. Season preview season. We're kicking off season 10 of this year podcast. How are you doing?
What a decade it's been, Joey.
Yeah.
The one thing that we've mastered, I think, in our 10 years doing this podcast is how consistent we are recording in the offseason.
Right. We're very, very consistent about how consistently we record in the offseason, which is to say that we, not very consistently at all.
Right.
Every year, though, we tell the people we're going to be more consistent. That's for sure.
We're consistent with that as well. So we're consistent with not recording and telling people we'd be more consistent.
We're good at false promises around here. Yes.
Thumbs up. Turns out you and I are just busy dads. So.
Yeah, which, is different from 9 years ago when we started season 1 of this show. But, as, things change. And,
right.
We got to try to stay the same on this podcast. So,
just think about it this way. We started this podcast pretty much 10 years ago to the month, right? We were maybe we started recording in August. But the one thing that has changed is that you can take off your scuba gear. You go down to the beach and, you're hanging out, you got your floaties, you got your pail, you got your scuba gear, maybe a snorkel. You can take that stuff off now, right?
Yeah.
When you listen to our podcast, you don't need that to then put this in your ears.
Right. I think it was a good move the day that we decided to stop recording this by 2 tin cans connected by a string.
Yeah.
That's been a positive.
We've improved.
The one change that we've made over the years here. Mike, we are live, youtube.com/@the ACC Football Podcast. It is about 11:30 on the East Coast. It got a little bit late. We were going to start earlier, and then there was some stuff that went on that had to be addressed first, but we got there, and we're here now. So shout out to the people with us on YouTube right now listening in. Come find us, please. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. If you've not already, we would appreciate that. We got a lot of content that's going to start coming your way here over the next couple of weeks as we start getting you ready for the 2025 ACC football schedule. We got 17 teams. We got a preview. We've got a whole season to preview. A lot of things to go over in that time. So please keep it tuned here. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell icon. You'll be notified when we're going to go live. You can come join in on the discussions here as we have them. And then obviously as we get into the season, we'll do some live previews and recaps every week for the games and the schedules that are coming up. So join in on the fun.
Yeah, the one thing I can say is the previews are coming because if we don't start them soon, we will not finish them on time. So July is right. Which that's never happened before. We've never had a preview drop the week of week 0 or week 1. That has definitely never happened. Please do not go back and check the tape. Yeah. We don't fact check me on that one. Definitely has not happened. We will be recording season previews like soon. This is when we fire it up. Generally right after the 4th, we get back. We're still taking vacations and stuff, but middle of July is when we at least start. I think one thing that worked out well last year, a lot of it was because you had a newborn, but we recorded basically one of us with a guest, and we did that kind of frequently. A lot of that out of necessity. But this year, if we have to get it done on time, we've already talked about it. If we can't both be at a recording, we're just going to hit record with the guest. Yep. That way we know it gets done. We will be previewing all 17 teams. We got through all 17 last year. We'll do it again this year. We're looking forward to it. And football's kind of around the corner. We're going to have college football here in about 7 weeks. Yeah. It's coming up quick. Busy summer. So
that's right. Yeah, to that point, Mike, my absolute favorite thing about conference expansion here is doing an extra 3 team previews every fall. So I'm excited to get going on that.
Yeah, it's a real kick in the ass for us when we haven't been consistently recording all off season. It's like, well, you get to preview 3 more teams now. You're busier in July and August. So there you go.
That's right. Exactly. Mike, let's get into tonight's show. We got a couple things that we're going to do here. First off, we want to do kind of a rowback rapid recap of the offseason in the ACC. So for those who have kind of tuned out and just, to make sure that we're covering all of our bases here, tried to hit some of the high points of what has happened or what has changed with some of these teams throughout the ACC over the offseason, in case, you weren't paying as much attention, and, at times we weren't either. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to get into win totals and ACC championship odds and potential picks on, what we're thinking about that before we end up then previewing all these teams specifically and individually. But let's just kind of take the temperature here where we're at for now. So once again, let's start with the Roback Rapid Recap. Go to roback.com, use promo code GOACC20 for 20% off your first order at roback.com. Fantastic polos, quarter zips, athletic wear, leisure wear. Everything looks fantastic. I got a new dinosaur polo for Father's Day, and my two sons got polos to match. So that's a fun thing you can do with roback.com.
I would like to shout out producer Scott and my lovely sister for purchasing my son and I matching Roback airplane polos.
There you go.
So it's pretty sick. Wore it today during a meeting. Not wearing it right now because the only meeting I have at 11:30 is with you, Joey. Here we are.
That's right.
Here we are.
That's right. That's right. Roback.com. Use promo code GOACC20 at checkout for 20% off your first order. Really helpful for us, and you get some really great wear. Highly recommended. I wear Roback shirts to work like all the time. So
10 out of 10.
Yeah, cannot recommend it enough. Mike, we don't have producer Scott with us, so putting 10 minutes on the clock on the YouTube feed is a bit of a challenge. But if you got a manual tracker, we might go for that.
I do.
While you're setting that up, what we're going to do, I'm going to go through. I've broken all these teams into 4 categories. I'm not going to tell you what the categories are. We're just going to kind of roll through this. I have not shared these notes with Mike, so we'll see how he reacts to the way that I have put them. But ultimately, Mike, kind of want just, we're going to hit a couple of things that have happened for these teams. I want you to tell me, where's the vibe at? Good vibe, bad vibe, meh vibes? What are we feeling for each of these teams?
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Fair enough. That's easy. I can follow those directions.
Sweet. Let's do it. You got 10 minutes on the clock?
I do. In 3, 2, 1, go.
Category number 1, head coaching changes. We'll start with Stanford. Troy Taylor fired by general manager Andrew Luck. They hired Frank Reich to be the interim head coach for 2025. Mike, vibes?
On the field, probably bad. We'll find out soon. Can't be good.
I don't sense good vibes from Stanford right now. They seem like they're in a pretty weird place. The Troy Taylor firing was at a weird time on the calendar, and the obviously required hiring an interim coach. Weird situation out there in Palo Alto.
But they are recruiting well, Joey, which is a little odd. So just want to point that out.
I have questions about that. Curious to learn more.
Yep.
Wake Forest, Dave Clawson retired. Jake Dickert hired from Washington State, brought in lots of Wazoo imports. Cougar fans seemed very mad about it, and they had a tight end named Harry Lodge who transferred to Georgia Tech and then transferred back to Wake Forest. So nice little vacation in Atlanta. How are we feeling about Wake?
He took one step in Atlanta. I'm just going to leave that right there. Good vibes.
Yeah.
Feel pretty good. You're going from Clawson to another proven coach. Very good.
Yeah. Interesting hire, and we talked about some of the regionality there at play, but sure, yeah, why not? And again, I think Wazoo was a pretty good team last year. That was like a 10-win team, I think, and obviously a depleted Pac-12 to say the least, but like a decidedly competent football team, played well in the bowl game and everything else. So, I think that's probably pointing upwards, or in a decent spot for Wake.
They're going to play several teams at the caliber that Wazoo played last year on their schedule. So I have a feeling that they'll be just fine. If they import like half that roster, we'll be okay.
Totally fair. Totally fair. One more. North Carolina. Mac Brown involuntarily retired, replaced by Bill Belichick, spent most of the offseason doing Chapel Bill shit with his recently teenage girlfriend.
Hopefully he's getting shots in that thing, because otherwise I don't really... Otherwise, she's just after your money. And even so, she's probably still just after your money, but at least he'd be getting something out of it, I guess.
I just don't know what to do with North Carolina right now.
Are we going to get canceled for me saying that? I don't know. We'll see. No.
Who knows? Lots of nepotism hires, lots of buddy hires, and it's going to be interesting to see exactly what they are. And by the way, schedule-wise, it is very forgiving schedule-wise, we'll say.
I think they'll make a bowl game.
Yeah, they should be okay, I think.
Yeah.
That's your head coaching changes. Coordinator changes. Clemson, defensive coordinator Wes Goodwin was fired. They hired Tom Allen as defensive coordinator, and they took a transfer wide receiver from the portal, Mike, from a Division II school.
Vibe goods. Wow. Vibes good.
Right.
Good vibes. Yeah.
Yeah. Vibes are high in Clemson. Yeah. They are the odds-on favorite to win the ACC, and with good reason, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia Tech defensive coordinator Tyler Santucci leaves for the NFL. Blake Gideon hired to fill that role from Texas. That's kind of the major change. Eric Singleton leaves and goes to Auburn, but they replace him with a couple of All-American candidates from FIU. I think the vibes are pretty decent at Georgia Tech.
Yeah, vibes are good at Georgia Tech. The Gideon hire, of course, we'll kind of see how that plays out. I think it should be fine. Losing Santucci is tough.
Yeah.
With the defenses he's coordinated the last couple of years. But
would definitely prefer the continuity, and Blake Gideon, I don't know that he's necessarily like tried and true. He doesn't have a long track record, but it does seem like people in the industry think pretty highly of that hire. And
yep.
Brent Key has a good history of hires so far, especially guys that have minimal track records. So no reason not to trust him on that one.
We have 6 minutes.
Yes. Florida State, Gus Malzahn hired as offensive coordinator. Thomas Castellanos transfers in to play quarterback for him. I stopped writing my notes. I should have. They hired a defensive coordinator from Nebraska. Not Tony Gibson. Was it Tony Gibson? Something like that. Anyways. So 2 coordinator changes. You got a new quarterback coming in. How are we feeling in Tallahassee?
I mean, Castellanos is already talking shit to Alabama for some reason. So yeah. I don't know. Vibes are not very good.
Vibes are weird.
I think this could be, I don't think they're like outright bad like they were halfway through last year, but I don't think they're fantastic either. This feels like a mediocre team to me.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Weird vibes in Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm.
NC State defensive coordinator Tony Gibson takes the head coaching job at Marshall. He was replaced by DJ Elliott. Offensive coordinator Robert Anae fired and replaced by Kurt Roper. We're doing a full coordinator change out in year, what is this, 12 or 13 for Dave Doran?
We're well into the second decade at this point.
Vibes feel weird here too.
I don't know what to do with NC State. So they're one of my big unknowns in the ACC this year.
Gonna have to do some investigating of them in the team preview series.
Yep. A lot of questions.
Last one, Virginia Tech. Offensive coordinator Tyler Bowen hired as offensive line coach at Ohio State. Sure. Philip Montgomery hired to replace him as offensive coordinator. Chris Marv was fired as defensive coordinator and replaced by Sam Sefkis, who I think what we usually say in the industry is like, he was at prom just last year or something along those lines. Interesting time at Virginia Tech. Weird vibes too. I think some optimism with the new hires, but also like kind of a gotta have it year for Brent Pry.
Yeah, and they hired Matt Moore, the offensive line coach too, and that's been a problem area as we've talked about. Vibes are not spectacular. Definitely a make or break year. You're like essentially 5 years away from the ACC decision time with realignment and everything else. You want to be in a good position there. I think that adds some urgency, but like that's what Babcock's hire. You don't get to hire 3 football coaches. So what's his incentive to fire him? Yeah, that's going to have to be a higher admin decision if things don't go well. So yeah, vibes are weird.
Really just pray that it starts working out better for Brent Pry, honestly.
That would be just go 8-4 or something. That would be pull a rabbit out of a hat. That would be phenomenal.
That would help a lot.
Yep.
All right, that's it for coordinator changes. Let's go to quarterback changes. Boston College, Thomas Castellanos transfers out. He kind of transferred out before the end of last year.
Yeah.
That's kind of the biggest change that I saw in Boston College. I think that a lot of it is running it back and trying to build on a pretty solid year one under Bill O'Brien.
The O'Brien hire, I think, is working. Well, I mean, it worked in year one. So
could have been worse.
But this is what BC does too, by the way. They have like really good first years with new coaches, and then it's kind of like the same old stuff. So we'll see what it ends up being.
Yep. Duke, Malik Murphy transfers out. Darian Mensah transfers in from Tulane and allegedly got a huge bag in the process.
Might be an upgrade.
Right? I've seen pretty good in Durham.
I would feel pretty good about this. Plus, I just feel good about me and Diaz, so that's another part of it.
That's true. Going to be very interesting to see if they can repeat last year. because that was a 9-win, like a 9-3 team that I feel like we were pretty skeptical of the whole time. And yet, like, at least one of those losses, I think, was to SMU, and they should have won. And it's like you could have beaten a playoff team, and yet we were skeptical of your 9 wins. I don't know. Weird, interesting year one, I would say. We'll see kind of what they're able to do in year two.
Not a bad schedule, by the way.
Yeah, not at all. Louisville, Tyler Shuck, drafted in the second round. Interesting. USC quarterback Miller Moss put on a good show in the Holiday Bowl against Louisville like 2 years ago, and that was good enough to get him the proverbial the potential starting role here in Louisville. Heavy on the transfers again. This feels like this is a feature, not a bug, for Jeff Brom at this point.
Miller Moss's mom, sup?
Hey,
hey. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Do you continue to hit on transfer quarterbacks is the big question.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would. You can't really say they're trying to go 3 for 3 because I don't know if Jack Plummer was necessarily a hit 2 years ago or not, but Tyler Shuck certainly was.
Right. And it's hard to even count Jack Plummer because he was like the first quarterback. You're almost like absolutely importing somebody when you're coming in and it's a new program you're leading and you just got to pick your quarterback. So that's almost just by default, you're grabbing somebody. Yep. So I don't know.
Yep.
We'll see.
Miami, Cam Ward goes 1-1 in the draft. Carson Beck transfers in from Georgia, coming off of elbow surgery significantly. Miami, I get the sense, and again, I haven't done that much digging on this, but I get the sense that Miami lost more than it brought in this offseason. That might be a net negative on the roster from last year to this year.
Seems that way. And while Carson Beck is good, even Carson Beck at his best is not Cam Ward. And then you couple that with the uncertainty of the elbow surgery. And it's like, all right, if he comes back and he's the quarterback he was at Georgia for Miami, they'll be fine. If he's like not quite that guy, then obviously there's going to be some issues, especially when the roster around him might not be quite as good.
Yeah. I think fine is probably a good word that you're looking at there, depending on what Carson Beck is.
Yeah, I agree. 10
Syracuse.
Seconds.
Huh? Oh,
10 seconds.
Yeah, we're not going to get there.
Overtime, baby.
There's only so many things I can do in 10 seconds. Syracuse.
There it is.
Kyle McCord was drafted too low, in my opinion. Steve Angeli transfers in from Notre Dame. They also got wide receiver Jonte Cook from Texas after he spent a couple weeks at Washington. Lots of transfers out of Syracuse, more so than the transfers in. Going to be tough to follow up year one here in year two for Fran Brown and the boys.
Schedule is not easy either. So, I mean, they open with Tennessee, Clemson, Georgia Tech, Notre Dame, all on there. SMU will be good. They're on there. Yeah. Not the easiest schedule.
That's right. Virginia, Tony Muskett graduated. Anthony Calandria transferred and might be very fun with Dan Mullen at UNLV, just as a reminder for your college fantasy league picks. They brought in Chandler Morris from North Texas. They also got on Monroe Mills, an offensive tackle in from Louisville. Lots of intriguing transfers coming in following the quote-unquote anonymous gift that was given to the program that we outlined with Justin Ferber. That must have been like at least 2 or 3 weeks ago we talked to him, maybe like 4 months. I don't know. Again, kind of feels like a gotta-have-it year for Tony Elliott, depending on who you talk to. But also, I mean, seems like the vibes are pointing upwards.
Yeah, I almost feel better. Don't clip this, but I almost feel a little bit better going into the year if I'm Virginia than Virginia Tech, just in terms of what you're bringing back and what you brought in and your schedule and your quarterback situation, I think is probably better because Kyron Jones has been, I know he was hurt last year, but it's been a little of this. And like Chandler Morris has been a decidedly like decent college quarterback for his entire career. And you're adding him into the fold. I think that's a clear upgrade at quarterback for Virginia with the schedule. Yeah, I got to be feeling pretty good about things, even though it has been a bit rocky with Elliott.
Yep. Agreed with that. That is all for quarterback changes. Although there is another quarterback change coming up here, but we'll get to that here. Last category, major personnel changes. Cal. So first of all, quarterback Francisco Mendoza, he went 98 yards with the boys and then transferred to Indiana. The entire running back room, everybody who has ever run the ball for Cal has transferred out. And Ron Rivera, formerly of the Panthers, was installed as GM. I I'm going to go out on a limb here, Mike, and say that the vibes are not good in Berkeley right now.
No, they aren't good. And also Ron Rivera is acting in the general manager role similar to how Andrew Luck is, in that he is in charge. So Justin Wilcox, buddy,
might be a swan song kind of year.
Yeah, getting late early. And by early, I mean like in year 6 or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. Feels like it's gonna be a tough year in the Bay Area for both Cal and Stanford, but we'll have to see how that ends up going.
What a non-con. Well, we'll talk about Cal's win total in a few minutes. What a non-con. My God.
That's a sight for sore eyes.
Yeah.
SMU offensive tackle Zion Taylor and running back Chris Johnson Jr., which ouch, is transferring in from Miami. Former Miami quarterback Tyler Van Dyke is in from Wisconsin. Former Miami running back Jalen Knighton is transferring out to West Virginia. Mike, it took me a second. It really had me wondering, and then I realized that there might be a connection here, being that Rhett Lashley is a former Miami offensive coordinator.
Correct.
But I can never really tell if the connection between Miami and SMU is about Rhett Lashley or about like going skiing in the summer. It's hard to know.
This quick fair question.
Something about SMU, man. Miami, and skiing. I don't know what it is. Hard to say.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we should leave that alone. Yeah. Vibes for SMU are fine. Just don't have Kevin Jennings throw like 5 interceptions in a playoff game. I think things will be okay. They were good last year.
Coming off a playoff appearance, things are just fine in Dallas.
Yeah,
I think, to say the least. I would say, I mean, this mostly closes out major personnel changes. I have kind of an orphan team here that we haven't mentioned yet, Mike. I don't really know what to say about Pittsburgh at this point. I don't think anything has really happened at Pitt this year. I mean, there was a couple of graduations, maybe a couple transfers in, but like by and large, this is going to be kind of a run it back kind of year for Pat Narduzzi and the guys. Cade Bell, offensive coordinator, coming back. You got Eli Holstein back at quarterback. A lot of the personnel, Desmond Reed is back as well. Running back, star running back for them. So I kind of don't feel like much has happened at Pitt, and maybe that's not the worst thing in this day and age of college football.
7-5, you can set your clock to it.
Kind of feels that way. Last thing on offseason recap, Mike, was we should probably bring up the fact that the conference got together and agreed to adopt a new revenue distribution model.
Yeah.
That is somewhat based on like television ratings and some things like that. It seems like it's going to kind of create some imbalance in the revenue distribution within the league, which I think was kind of being pushed for by the Clemsons and the Florida States and was just kind of agreed to by some of the smaller schools in the conference. That's all fine. But they also publicized the new exit penalties that will basically guarantee that the conference will be together for the next 5 years and then is going to take on a very different look after that.
Yep. That's exactly right. I mean, I think you basically shored up things in the short term until we get to the next stage of realignment when the college football playoff is up from a television standpoint, where various grant of rights documents with the different conferences are up and TV deals are up for the conferences. And yeah, that's it's going to be interesting, but that's a problem for 2030 when we're both pushing 40.
Yeah. Well, we'll get there.
Yeah.
I assume.
Well, yeah,
unless, the heat death of the world happens before then, which, at this point doesn't seem so bad some days, but anyways,
yeah, that's very true.
Mike, that's all I've got on the ACC offseason recap. Anything else that seems meaningful that we forgot to include here?
No, I don't think so. It's been relatively quiet, I think, we just talked about a lot of changes, but it's been like relatively quiet in the ACC from like a national standpoint, outside of everybody just talking about Bill Belichick's girlfriend the entire summer. It's been kind of quiet on the ACC front, which has been welcomed because we're so used to like schools getting picked off or brought in or whatever. It's been kind of a quiet off season. Of course, it was like the House versus NCAA and revenue sharing, all that stuff nationally. It's affecting everybody. Yeah. But I think we're in for a relatively stable few years, maybe.
Yeah, that was the big takeaway when the changes were announced was basically everyone's agreeing to just drop it, like all the lawsuits and all the, back and forth nonsense with each other. Just let it go for a few years and then figure it out after that, which seems like a fair compromise, at least for now. And then, again, who knows what college football will look like in 5 years, and maybe none of this will matter. Who knows?
Right. And, maybe the ACC will merge with Big 12 and it'll just be electric. We'll be doing like 30 team previews, and, our kids will be helping. Our kids will be doing some interviews to help us out because we'll be, swimming.
I'll be driving around the state of Texas to talk to people at Baylor and TCU and everywhere.
Be like Josh Pate, do some road shows.
There you go.
Little speaker series. Yeah,
that's right. All right, Mike, that was the Roback rapid recap of the ACC's offseason. Use promo code GOACC20 at checkout for 20% off your first order at roback.com for all sorts of phenomenal performance wear. They do have the campus series that you can get some of the teams in the ACC. We have individual like logo polos that they have. Lots of just really great performance wear. If you're not familiar with it already, you should probably go check that out. They have been a big hit around my office, around yours, Mike, and everywhere in between. So, highly recommended.
Yep, absolutely.
Mike, do you want to get into some win totals?
Let's do it.
We have been talking about doing this show for like a month now, so good that we're getting around to it. So for those unfamiliar, for the uninitiated, win totals, basically Vegas betting outlets putting out projected win totals, and you can bet on whether a team wins more or less than X number of games in a year. I do want to call out before we get into this. I feel like a couple of years ago when the ACC not only added the 3 new teams, but even a year or two before that, we changed up the scheduling model to where it's no longer the Coastal and the Atlantic division. It's, you play who you play. And it feels like it very quickly became like a team's win total outlook becomes very heavily dependent on who is and is not on the schedule. Yeah. Which is partially to say that we're going to go through this, and I cannot promise you that we are in position to deep dive every team's schedule and like really know what we're picking against here to a certain degree, because it's a little bit hard to keep up with at times. But we do have something to reference, so we'll be able to get to that.
Yeah, we got our schedule matrix up, so we'll do our best.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's kick it off, Mike. We are using sportsbetting.ag. Has all of their odds posted. They are not a sponsor.
Bet US. I mean, they were a close second, and if
that's right.
They hooked us up with one of those Zoom calls, we would have been maybe on the hook still with a sponsorship for them.
That's all it would have taken.
That's it.
Do you want to go in alphabetical order here, Mike? I think that's probably the easiest thing to do with the way the website is.
Yeah, I mean, straight down the list.
All right. Let's start in Chestnut Hill. Boston College regular season wins. So this does not include any potential bowl game, conference championship appearance, any of that. Boston College's win total for the year set at 5.5. Under is at -130, meaning that is the projected. You're expecting them to win less than 5.5. Over 5.5 is at even money, so better payouts if you bet over that number, meaning they think it's going to go under.
I mean, it's certainly not the easiest schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Open with Fordham. My mom went there for her master's. Just nice. A random factoid for you. They open with Fordham. They also have Michigan State, UConn, and Notre Dame in the non-con. So,
None of those are layups at the very least.
Right. And then, you do draw both Stanford and Cal. So I think, you just alluded to it a minute ago. I think that's favorable, right? I think those are two very winnable games. You get Cal after a bye week as well. There's a bye week sandwich between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
You draw Clemson, which is not easy. You draw Georgia Tech down the stretch, which could be a difficult game. Syracuse in the finale is always far from a gimme. Those games get really weird. SMU is on the schedule. So I can understand why the juice is on the under here. But Joey, I think I like them over 5.5. I think I like BC getting to a bowl game. And I was looking at, I was kind of going down the list of like out of all these schools that we're going to talk about tonight where you can get like plus odds, who are the ones I like the most? And BC's up there for me because of the continuity they're bringing back. I do like what Bill O'Brien did in year one. And BC has a way of mucking things up and making games kind of drag down to them and like their style of play. And I think that could suit them in a difficult game like an SMU at home or like a Georgia Tech at home, right? Where you're probably going into those games as an underdog, but can you drag them down to your level? And, you have similar talent. I wouldn't say across the board, but more so than like playing in Notre Dame or Clemson, right? Where you're decidedly an underdog versus like maybe you're inside a score against a Georgia Tech or an SMU. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit against SMU. Point being, I do think Boston College can get to. I think this is one where I would take a shot at over 5.5 at plus 100. I think that this is one. Having an FCS game, having having the Michigan State game, second game of the year. With Jonathan Smith and the rebuild and everything else there. It's on the road, which makes it tough, but drawing both Stanford and Cal, I think, is good. Pitt's a winnable game. You do get UConn. That's a winnable game. Louisville's got some questions. Georgia Tech, SMU, Syracuse, can you go 2 for 3 there to get to 6? I think, that would be the formula, right? So yeah. I'm out of all the schools where I'm looking at the juice on, the other side, where can I get some value? I think BC, despite the schedule and some of the tougher teams they draw, I do think there's a path there for them to get to 6 in a bowl game. And they tend to get to bowl games. Like BC plays in a lot of bowl games. So right. I think they can get to 6.
I'm with you. And that was really kind of the big thought that I had was I feel like Boston College is a team and really not unlike the way that we used to talk about some of the Dave Clawson Wake Forest teams where you're really not like that inspired by looking at the roster. There's not a whole lot of like blue chip national recruits that you're like, oh, they have that guy, that you don't get a lot of that, but like they start playing games and they just keep winning them. And I mean, it kind of feels like it doesn't really matter who's on the schedule. They're probably going to go like 6-6 or 7-5 almost every year. And so I agree. This is a tough schedule, but as you said, I mean, Michigan State's not a gimme, but I don't think it's a definite loss either. Like that,
right.
That could be a winnable game for you on the road. Stanford, Cal, Pitt, UConn, Georgia Tech, Syracuse, all those. I think you could get at least close to coin flip territory with a lot of those. So do I think that they can find a way to win 6? Yeah, I kind of do, and I don't know that you really win many more than that, but. I mean, I do think this is a good number. Like it could easily be a thing where you're playing Syracuse and you're 5-6 and, whatever happens there is kind of what determines the way that this goes. The other thing you always have to keep in mind too, with Boston College, that SMU game, that's the red bandana game, baby. They might be able to steal one there with the spirit of Wells Crowther fueling the team.
Yep.
So
I do like also like in that 5-6 scenario you mentioned, they go into that Syracuse game coming off of a late bye week. So, I mean, that's another benefit to them, right? If they're in that scenario, which I think is pretty plausible looking at how the schedule's laid out. Like they could certainly be 5-6 looking to make a bowl game going to the final week of the year.
And Syracuse coming back from a road game at Notre Dame.
That's becomes a much more winnable spot even on the road. So,
yeah. Yep. Over 5.5 at even money is kind of where we're at right now on Boston College.
Yep.
Cal 5.5 over plus 120 under minus 150. And
yeah,
I mean, that kind of juice, I wouldn't be putting my own money on it, but I feel like this could be a little bit ugly for Cal this year. Definitely would be on the under here. This could be 3-9, 4-8.
Yeah, we don't need to drag this out longer than it needs to be. I don't think the value is really there, but I do think this is one where you can look at and you're like, all right, Minnesota, Oregon State, San Diego State, an FCS school in your non-con, and there are like some games that I think are gettable. Like we just talked about BC. Like that's probably a game where you would have to win, right? To hit the over, you'd have to beat BC. Duke and UNC on there, Virginia Tech and UVA both on there. Of course, you play Stanford. But yeah, I mean, it's not the hardest schedule in the conference, but I'm just not very confident in what Cal has from a roster standpoint. So
yeah,
I'm on the under with you here.
Yep. Under 5.5 for Cal is where we're at right now. Clemson 9.5. Over is at minus 210, which give me a break, first of all, on that. Under is plus 170. I mean, I'm going to have a take on Clemson at some point here in the preseason. I don't know that I'm really like ready to quite drop that, but let's put it this way: is if the number were at 10.5, I would have probably said under. At 9.5, I'm probably going over. Like this is more likely, much more likely 10-2 than 9-3 or worse.
I don't see 3 losses on the schedule with what they have on defense, who they have a defensive coordinator now, and what we saw out of Klubnik last year, and that young receiving core that looks the best it's been in years. I don't see it. I mean, they got some questions on the offensive line. But like I look at this schedule, man, like LSU in the opener, Clemson's probably going to be favored there. And then like your other tough games are Georgia Tech in week 3, SMU, but you get that at home.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what Louisville is, and then South Carolina at the end of the year. In Columbia, right? So like I think I'm with you, right? If it was 10.5, I'm probably going under, right? Because I think the worst case scenario, I think with this roster and this coaching staff, like who they have on staff now, I think the worst case scenario for Clemson, barring like significant injury to Klubnik or something, I think is 10-2. So I'm probably going over. There's a reason why it's juiced the way that it is at 9.5. But yeah, I think at 9.5, I think you got to bet it over with the schedule, especially.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, I could, again, it's a thing where I could see them. There are enough losable games here. And I have my questions about, the fully weaponized war machine mode, whether Clemson is quite there yet or not. And so it's like I could see them finding a way to lose 2 of these games. I mean, is it crazy to say they could lose to LSU and South Carolina? No. Like,
no.
Those are plenty losable, and that's assuming you then run the table in the ACC, but I think they win at least one of those. They probably go 7-1 in the ACC, drop one to someone somewhere. But yeah, I'll go over 9.5 as well. As you said, juice is just way too much. I would not actually put money on something at minus 210 for a futures bet like that. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
Duke 6.5 coming off that 9-3 season. They're 6.5 now. Over is minus 170, under plus 140. Need to look at the schedule here. I was skeptical of 9-3. I almost wonder about like under 6.5 if I'm getting plus 140 on it. Like, is that crazy to think there could be some regression there?
Show me the 6
losses.
Yeah. Show me the 6 losses. That's what you gotta do. Okay.
So you get Illinois at home. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's losable for
sure. Yep.
At Tulane is looking less losable now that you stole their quarterback. NC State at home. I mean, a little bit of who knows what they might be.
Mm-hmm.
At Syracuse, probably, I don't know. I mean, losable, like going on the road, and then going to Berkeley and playing Cal. There's not a lot of these games, honestly, that I look at and I'm like, oh, Duke is definitely going to win that one. Like, write it in pen right now. They'll win that game, right? And
yeah,
maybe that's the way you're playing it.
Yeah. It's more of like, show me the games where they're going to be decidedly an underdog, right? It's kind of the same game we were playing with BC.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is an easier schedule though than what we were just talking about with Boston College. I mean, I think it's assuredly easier.
Yeah.
You don't draw Notre Dame. You don't draw SMU. You do have to travel to Clemson. That'll be tough.
I mean, Georgia Tech at home is probably their second toughest ACC game.
For sure. It for sure is. I mean, you play Wake and Carolina, and you have a non-con game in November against UConn. You play UVA at home. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm leaning over here. I think 7-5. Of course, I always feel differently once I actually talk to the, we talk to the beat writers. We feel differently about things.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, subject to change. We're sitting here in, second week of July doing this for content purposes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think I'm leaning over. I just don't. There are just not enough losses that I can just like write down in pen either. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of coin flippy games, and I think the schedule's easier than the one BC has, which is why I kind of went the other way with Boston College.
Yeah, put it one more way: is you're a significant underdog at Clemson. I think based on where we stand right now, I think you're an underdog at home to Georgia Tech, and then the other 6 ACC games. I mean, you might be favored, you might be an underdog, but all those games probably a 5 or 6 point spread or less, which you're getting into basically 6 coin flip games at that point, and it's really not that bad to try to find your way to 7 wins if you're Duke there. So,
yep,
I think that's doable.
Yep, I agree.
Florida State 7.5 over +190, under -230. Good grief. I think they're basically telling you it's under here, but I mean, I think 6-6, 7-5 is probably what we're looking at here.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, they got a nasty opener, and I that's the one thing that we didn't really talk about. You kind of mentioned it earlier, was Thomas Castellanos talking trash about Alabama. That's really smart to do, I think, personally, when you're coming off a 2-10 team and all that.
A total moron, and I don't know why he felt the need to do that. Maybe he thinks Alabama's more gettable now. They don't have Saban, and maybe that actually holds water, but like, I don't know that for sure yet.
Yeah.
And like, I think Alabama's quarterback situation, depending on who they choose and what that ends up being, could potentially be a little bit better this year than it was last year. And if that's the case, maybe you win one of those weird ones you lost, right? Like Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
For example.
I love that my quarterback's confident, but like, maybe don't say anything that they're going to be putting on the bulletin board all over their locker room going into this game, where they probably already had you outgunned.
Yeah, especially like DeBoer and what he's done and like that kind of program too. And I'm not talking about like DeBoer what he's done at Bama. He's by Alabama standards, like pedestrian year one, but like I don't think they're worried about Thomas Castellanos. I don't think there's a reason. I've been pretty clear on that. I don't think there's a reason to be.
Yeah. I will add this in, and Dennis 133 on YouTube makes a great comment about wondering what the quit factor is. I mean, I definitely think that there was heavy quit factor that went into being 2-10 last year, and I think it really kind of started after those first couple of games. I mean, I think they gave their best effort of the season against Georgia Tech to start, and then I think they played pretty hard that week 2 against Boston College, week 1 actually against Boston College at home. And I felt like they lost those 2 games, and you kind of saw it start at that point of like,
nailed it in.
Oh, what are we doing here? Like, this isn't what I came here for all these transfers that come in, all that stuff. So that's where I worry about, like, if you lose by 30 points to Alabama to start the year, like, what happens after that? But either way, I mean, you probably got 2 free squares basically in the non-conference, and then plenty of winnable games if they are anything like what we would expect Florida State to be. So 6-6, 7-5, I think is where I'm at right now, but definitely would not be laying -230 to bet under 7.5 wins here.
No, and I mean, I'm on the under, but I wouldn't bet it. Here's the thing: like, there's 4 games where I think they're decidedly an underdog. Bama, Miami, Clemson, and Florida. I think they're an underdog in all 4 of those by about a touchdown, and like, or more, obviously. And that's why I look at this, I just have a really hard time being like, yeah, this is like one of the value picks on the over. Like, there's already 4 where I think out of the gate, you're just looking at it on paper. You're like, I don't think they're going to win this game here. I know there are questions about Miami. I know it's a rivalry game. I know you get it at home, but like, Miami's going to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And Clemson and Florida are both on the road, and they're both going to be better. And then you got Bama in the opener, who's probably the best team. Well, we'll see what Florida is, but Bama is probably the best team on the schedule.
Right.
So, yeah, man, I don't see it. I can't bet it because of the current juice, but I don't see a path really to over. I do think they can make a bowl game, right? So, I mean, I think it'll be an improvement from last year. I don't think it's going to be 2-10 again. I don't think they're only going to have one FBS win. I think it'll be better, but I also don't think we're in a position where we're like closer to what we were 2 years ago than what we were last year. I think there's going to be some bumps in the road still.
Right. Yep. Fair enough. Under 7.5 for both of us with Florida State. Not expecting that heavy of a bounce back after last year.
Yep.
Georgia Tech 7.5, over -155, under +125. So basically telling you go over. My big thought here is that this number is actually pretty spot on in terms of like, was this a successful season or not? Is if they want it to be successful, you got to go over. If you don't go over, probably wasn't successful.
Right.
So there's that. I mean, the schedule sets up pretty nicely. You got a lot of stuff coming back, a lot of continuity. Obviously, we talked about the defensive coordinator thing was a point of non-continuity, but I'm going to lean over. I don't know. There's a little piece of me like deep down inside that is has a hard time being that optimistic going into a season for Georgia Tech. I mean, it kind of is what it is. So I'm going to lean over cautiously. But I wouldn't lean too hard into it.
Yeah, I'm on the over here as well, but not by a lot. Like, I think this is a pretty good number. And the reason why is like Georgia Tech plays up to competition, but they also play down to competition, right? So like Georgia Tech has Colorado on the schedule, obviously in the opener. We'll see what Colorado is. They're replacing a lot. I think the continuity Georgia Tech brings back helps them a lot going into that game. Obviously, Colorado had a pretty good team last year. Clemson game in week 3 is seismic, like a gigantic game. Georgia Tech tends to play up to competition. That's why I bring that up. Plus, you have that game at home.
Mm-hmm. You won't be favored, but maybe not a huge underdog.
Won't be favored, but you have a chance. You're going in that game with a chance to win, certainly. Georgia in the finale, I made the statement last year. I don't care how big of a favorite Georgia is. I'm going to bet on Georgia Tech in that game. I'm not going to continue making the mistake where I'm laying them with Georgia and I'm watching like a 17 overtime game. I'm not doing that anymore. Where I have to like live bet to like hedge. We're not doing that stuff anymore.
Brent Key clearly like holds stuff back for that game and will throw the kitchen sink at anything to beat Georgia. So
all of a sudden, like Haynes King is like miraculously healthy, and I'm like, oh, of course he is, right? Because I bet on Georgia here, so of course Haynes King looks the best that he's looked and the healthiest he's looked all season. Perfect.
They pulled out Michael's secret stuff from Space Jam.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll sprinkle that on there. Great reference, by the way. I mean, there are a lot of gimmies though, like Samford in week 2. Temple is one of the worst teams in the FBS, so you do have those on the schedule. Wake Forest is obviously new coach. Virginia Tech has a chance to be pretty bad. You have Duke, you have Syracuse, NC State, all winnable. BC and Pitt, those are all winnable games. Here's the thing, though. Georgia Tech always does this thing where they have at least one, sometimes a couple, where they play down. And it's like, why are they losing to Bowling Green? Why are they I don't want to bring up the Citadel from the Jeff Collins era. That wouldn't be fair. But like, why are they losing to the Citadel? Why are they, I don't know, pick a random game on the schedule. Why are
How many times did they turn it over last year against Syracuse and Louisville? Like,
right.
Both very flat performances.
Right. I'll just pick one out on the schedule. Like, why are they trailing? I don't think it's fair to say it's about Temple, but like, why are they trailing to Wake Forest? You know, this is a team that they're decidedly better than. It's a year 1 coach. Like, it's a road game. They're favored by 10. Why are they trailing in the third quarter, sort of thing? So like, that's the stuff I worry about with Georgia Tech. But yeah, I lean over as well.
Yep. And Dennis made the point that they could be favored in 10 games this year, and I think that's totally fair. They are a small favorite at Colorado to start the year. I really think that those first 3 games at Colorado, and then obviously you get the FCS Samford game, and then you're at home against Clemson. I think that is going to be extremely instructive on what this team is and can be. You've got a decent opponent out the gate, and then you've got basically your second toughest game of the year is in week 3, and you'll find out a lot about what the team is made of at that point, I think.
Yeah.
And then they could be a favorite in all 10 other games other than Clemson and Georgia. So I think that's on the table.
Yep.
Louisville, 8.5 over -145, under +115. Probably over. I mean, probably 9-3, 10-2 here. If I'm, unless Louisville were to kind of fall off a little bit. I mean, some of this is going to depend on what is Miller Moss and how well does that mesh with Jeff Brom and what he wants to do. But this is just a consistently solid program. The one thing I will kind of say is, again, there is some really heavy reliance on transfers basically has been ever since Jeff Brom got there.
Yeah.
And as we've seen elsewhere, there is some real volatility that can come into play when you're completely turning over half the roster year over year. So there is always a chance that they kind of fall off and fall well short of this number.
Yeah, I mean, keep an eye on Bob Chesney in week 2 with James Madison. That could be an interesting one. They're well coached at the very least. I don't know, man. I look at this. I'm on the over as well, but I look at the schedule and it's pretty gettable. I mean, the closing stretch is kind of tough. You have Clemson, SMU, Kentucky to close, and I don't think Kentucky's going to be phenomenal, but it's a rivalry game end of the year, and you're coming off 2 really tough games back to back going into it. Miami's on the schedule as well, but I also look at the flip side, and I mean, I think this is an easy, not easy, but I think a doable 5-0 start.
Completely.
Eastern Kentucky, James Madison, bye week, Bowling Green, Pitt, UVA. I mean, they're going to be favored in all of those, I think. And not to say that they'll win all 5, but I mean, I think you can get to 5-0. You can talk yourself into that pretty easy. Now you're 1 win from bowl game and you're 3 wins from going over. And second half of the schedule is tough, but I mean, BC, Virginia Tech, and Cal are on there. And then Kentucky at the end, where I think you still might be favored there. So it's there's probably 4 games there, even in the second half of the schedule is pretty tough, where you're going to be a favorite. They might even be favored against Miami. So I think this is a 9-3, 10-2 type team. I think there is a chance that we see Louisville and Charlotte for sure. Given what they're returning. We'll see what Miller Moss is quarterback, hitting on quarterback 3 years in a row out the portal is going to really tell the tale, I would say.
Yeah.
But like you said, I mean, Brom's teams are always well coached, and they're always in the mix. It would be very surprising to see them go under here. I think this is I think the schedule sets up really well. And I think if they're relatively healthy going into the second half of the year, which I think they should be, if they're able to kind of cruise in several of those games, I think that would be helpful. And then try to have that continuity and momentum going into the second half of the year.
Last thing I'll mention here is that they have both of their bye weeks before they play game number 6.
Yeah.
So they basically finished the year with 7 straight games in 7 weeks, which is not ideal. So
tough.
Yeah. I would not be betting this personally. Just again, -145 to go over, and then at that point you're betting on some pretty big numbers. Betting a team to get to at least 9-3 is a little steep. So I'd probably leave it alone, but I lean to the over.
The only thing I'm actually betting out of the ones we talked about so far is Boston College, I think. If you had to point to one. The rest of these I'm over, under, but it's the juice is so bad. It's
sports books are cowards. Anyways, Miami 9.5 over +120, under -150. Again, without looking at the schedule, I mean, you open. Well, without looking at the schedule, but I'm going to. You open with Notre Dame. A few weeks later, you got Florida, probably underdogs in both of those games, even at home. Lots of losable spots here. I'm not super hot on Miami this year. I would be leaning under here, as the odds suggest that you should do.
Feels like an 8-4 team. I don't think they'll be as bad as they've been when they've kind of bottomed out. in Miami terms, just like barely making a bowl game. I don't think they'll be quite that bad because I think Beck will probably come back, be okay from the elbow. But they are replacing a lot, especially on defense. They're replacing a ton on defense. Schedule's tough. I mean, Notre Dame, Florida, and Florida State before week 6. I mean, you're not even the second week of October, and you got 3 pretty tough games. I mean, they will be favored against Florida State, but like I mentioned a couple minutes ago when we were talking about Florida State's schedule, it is a rivalry game. You also finished the year here. I mean, we just talked about it with Louisville. You also finished the year, if you're Miami, with 7 straight games. So their bye week set up in a similar way as well.
At Virginia Tech, at Pittsburgh in the final 2 weeks of the year, by the way, when it gets cold. So
yeah,
always a consideration with Miami.
Yeah, so have fun with that. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is more like 8-4, 7-5. Yeah. So yeah, I'm leaning under as well.
Yep. Before we move on, Mike, just a quick reminder, section103.com. Use promo code GOACC at checkout for 10% off your first order for all things wonderful Georgia Tech apparel. And now, Mike, not just Georgia Tech apparel, but if you're looking to find some LSU apparel to wear to that Clemson game week 1, Section 103's got that too. Shout out to Steven. Congratulations to them. I know when he launched the site a couple of years ago, the intent was never for it to just be a Georgia Tech site, and now they are seeing that come to fruition as they have added a lot of LSU gear, including LSU national championship gear for their baseball team that just kind of won that national title. I don't think that LSU's baseball team has lost since Section 103 launched that line, so might be something to that. Hard to say, but probably. Once again, use promo code GOACC for 10% off your first order. A lot of good things coming from Section 103. Keep an eye out there. Lots of T-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, polos. Oh, no, not polos. They don't have polos. Lots of good things. Section103.com. Use promo code GOACC for 10% off your first order at checkout for all things wonderful Georgia Tech apparel for the entire family, or LSU apparel, or potentially other schools coming soon. Who's to say? Go check them out. Shout out to Steven. Appreciate their support as always.
Damn cool.
Cool. That's right. North Carolina, 7.5. Sorry, I skipped NC State. NC State, 6.5, plus 115 to the over, minus 145 to the under. As we said, vibes weird in Raleigh. And I don't know, schedule-wise, I don't think this is anything like really crazy. And you're really just trying to get to 7-5. I don't know. I would probably just leave this alone personally from a betting standpoint. I don't feel very strongly about it. What NC State is going to be this year.
Yeah, I'm not touching it either because I really don't know if NC State's going to be good or not. There's a chance they're really bad. There's a chance they're just like status quo. If they're status quo, you're probably hitting on the over, right? I look at the schedule. It's not awful. You miss Clemson. You do have Notre Dame on there. You do have Georgia Tech on there. You do have Miami on there. Every other game is winnable if it's the NC State that we've seen the last 10 years, 11 years for the most part. I mean, most Dave Doran teams are pretty average. They're going to bowl games or they're going about 7-5. So I think this is one you consider betting if you're a little bit more bullish on what NC State's got and you're relying on Dave Doran a little bit more than I would, just given the lack of continuity with the roster. The schedule's gettable for sure. I mean, there are wins on there if they're kind of the team that they've been, right? So you're kind of betting on the bet to the upside would be it's Dave Doran. This is what they do. They make bowl games. They win 7 games. It's kind of like Southern Narduzzi. It's like
yeah,
what they are at this stage. But I'm just not as confident. I'm not as confident in NC State as I am in like a Boston College where like I know what they have coming back.
Yeah.
There's just more questions here, both with like personnel and coaching staff with NC State than there are with Boston College. So, yeah, there are too many questions there for me to actually put money on this, at least at this stage, until we do our season previews. Maybe I can be swayed otherwise.
I agree with that. If I could get a slightly bigger number to over 6.5, I'd maybe be tempted, but yeah, leaving that alone for now.
We're too close to even money with all the questions.
Right. Agree with that. North Carolina, 7.5, over plus 150, under minus 200. This one, I think, as much as any of them on here, is schedule dependent. Basically, you're talking about. I am of the opinion that just objectively, North Carolina will not be that good this year. But it is hard to ignore the opportunities that they have on this schedule. To win a lot of games where they, if they're underdogs, they won't be big underdogs at the very least.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of agreeing. Plus 150 is kind of enticing with this schedule for the over 7.5. Man, this is the second one on the list where I'm like, this is one I would consider betting. Right. If you don't believe in Bill Belichick, at least believe in his son, Steve Belichick, who has coordinated some good defenses at the college level. Like, at least believe that's going to travel. Right. Yeah. And then, reasonably speaking, right, if they're going to have, and Bill Belichick's a defensive guy anyway, right? So just like believe that the defense is going to be good once they get their feet under them, ignore all the other noise. They got to figure out quarterback, right? So that's something they got to get that nailed down. But I look at this schedule, Charlotte, Richmond, a year one UCF is on there. Who knows what TCU is going to be in the opener? I think that's winnable. You have bye weeks around your Clemson game that you get at home. Cal and Stanford are on there. Wake and UVA are on there. Duke and NC State are on there.
Yeah.
Syracuse is on there on the road in late October, Halloween night.
They might be favored in 7 out of 8 ACC games. Like, that's not out of the question.
I really like the over here, Joey. I think look, 7-8 wins, I think, is the neighborhood for Carolina. Like, I would be surprised if they got to 9. I think that if they get to 9, they hit on quarterback, and maybe it's more than just, hey, this is an easy schedule. Maybe it's like, oh, they actually look good in some of these games. Like, they're actually they're running away from a couple of these teams. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe they're actually like just a decent team and well coached.
Yeah.
7-8 win range seems like it's in the neighborhood. And the schedule's so soft to me. I think if you're going to bet one, plus 150 too.
Yeah.
Vegas is like, they really want you to bet this. They're making it semi-enticing.
I can't find the odds for it right now, but if somebody can find the odds somewhere of North Carolina to make the ACC championship game, make it to Charlotte, that might be worth a sniff too, by the way, because again, their ACC opener is at home against Clemson. They will be a large underdog in that game. I do not think that they will win, but their other 7 games, they could be favored or a small underdog in every one of them. Like, it's not crazy to think that they could go 7-1 in conference. It doesn't matter what you do in the out of conference, and you're in Charlotte.
Yeah.
So that might be worth taking a swing on, depending on what odds you can get on Carolina in Charlotte.
Yep. No, I agree. I agree.
Pitt over 6.5 over plus 115, under minus 145. I kind of like Pitt getting plus money to the over here.
Principal bet, man. It's a principal bet.
Similar to the Boston College thing, like, they are going to go about 7-5 every year. And I don't know how they're going to get there, but they will. And you're giving me plus money over 6.5. I think that's probably worth taking the swing.
Death, taxes, and 7-5 Pitt, man. Duquesne and Central Michigan, your first 2 games. Okay. Backyard brawl is on the road. Right. So we'll see.
You do get Louisville. You do get Notre Dame. You do get Miami.
By the way,
Tallahassee.
It's year 1 West Virginia too with Rich Rod, right? So
true.
It is year 1 thing. Yeah, but it's not the easiest schedule, like you mentioned. That the closing stretch is hard. Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, Miami. But like, what's Miami going to be at the end of the year? We don't know. If Georgia Tech is like on the lower end of what we just talked about a couple minutes ago, maybe that game doesn't look quite as tough. Maybe that's a game that you feel like you can win on the road. Notre Dame at home, can you ugly it up? Absolutely. Narduzzi can ugly it up against ND. He's done it before. Yeah, death, taxes, and 7-5 Narduzzi, man. I think this is a principal bet on the over.
Yeah, year 2, Cade Bell, Eli Holstein. You might see a jump in the offense there. I mean, they were pretty good for the first half or so of the year last year. So, yeah, I that's one I would definitely be interested in, over 6.5 at plus 115.
I like it. Yeah, I like it. I'm going to consider betting this one.
Yep. A few more here, Mike. SMU 8.5 over minus 125, under minus 105. Felt like, I mean, there was some luck involved last year that got them to the playoff, but I'm not going to tell you that they weren't a legitimately good team either.
Right.
So, I mean, lots of interesting losable spots here. You're out of conference. You got Baylor at home and TCU on the road, at Clemson, home against Louisville, home against Miami. Like, it's somewhat a question to me of like, how much faith do you have in SMU to kind of follow up what they did last year? I kind of lean under just playing the odds, and that's also kind of the better number here. But I mean, totally plausible they could go 9-3, 10-2 again.
Yeah. Yeah, this is very coin flippy to me. The out of conference is not easy. Like it's not. Baylor and TCU and 2 FCS games.
Mm-hmm.
Baylor and TCU ones though are like, I don't know. I mean, you're gonna go 1 for 2 there, maybe. If you win all 4, I think you're cruising over. But I think if you're betting on the under, you're hoping they lose at least one of those first 4.
Guessing they split, split Baylor and TCU.
Splitting Baylor and TCU, really, yeah. Well, won't count the 2 FCS games. So it'll be like 40-point favorites.
Yeah.
But like Syracuse and Stanford, Wake Forest and Boston College, Cal, all winnable games. Louisville, Miami, Clemson. Okay. And then you're hoping they split. I mean, if they lose both Baylor and TCU, I think you're going to be under. I think you're feeling good about it with the back half of the schedule. So very coin flippy, very September dependent on the 2 non-con games of consequence. Mm-hmm. I think, though, it's hard to imagine them with what they did last year, Kevin Jennings coming back and everything they got going for him. Hard to imagine this is worse than 9-3.
Yeah.
But 8-4 wouldn't shock me. So
yeah,
not touching it.
I'm probably leaving it alone. Gun to my head, I would say under and say it's 8-4. But again, like I don't know. Could see it anyway.
Flip.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a coin flip. I think 9-3. I feel pretty good about 9-3. Not good enough to bet it. 8-4 is on the table, especially with those questions in September with the 2 non-con games with Baylor and TCU. So,
yep. Stanford, low man on the board, 3.5 wins. Can we get Stanford to 4-8? Unders minus 160 and the over plus 130. Might be a long year in Palo Alto, Mike.
You got to beat Hawaii.
Do they get 13 games? Or just 3 bye weeks? It looks like just 3 bye weeks, I think.
3 bye weeks. Yeah, 3 bye weeks. Interesting.
Yeah.
I guess it's because they're playing in week 0. They're the only ACC team playing in week 0, which is probably why they have 3. Yeah.
We are not pulling our schedule for previews up by a whole week just to be able to preview Stanford and Hawaii in week 0.
But no promises that we won't bet it just to get something on the board, right?
We will preview it. It just might happen kind of midstream as we finish up team previews.
Yeah. I mean, we got to wet our palate a little bit there. So you got Hawaii, you got a bye week in week 1, and then in week 2, you're playing BYU. And I guess the hope is that whoever BYU chooses a quarterback also has premarital sex and gets kicked off the team. So that you're really drawing like a 3rd stringer in September for that BYU game.
Man, that Jake Retzloff thing really does kind of throw a wrench into some of these win total bets.
Look, man, maybe, when Noah's older and I have to give him the talk, maybe I'm just point to Jack Retzlaff's situation. Hey, look, we can make these jokes now that he was like that. It's not rape. It doesn't seem like, so we can make these jokes now, but like, hey man, just look what he did. He had sex and he got kicked off the football team, and he'll do a little research, realize it's because he went to BYU. Anyway, back to the schedule.
Are you worried about Noah becoming Mormon or like what?
Yeah, I'd be more concerned about that, I guess. No offense to any Mormon listeners.
Yeah.
Hawaii, BYU, Boston College, UVA, San Jose State before your second bye week. Are you favored in any of those?
I don't know if they're probably favored at Hawaii.
Are they favored against San Jose State? Was really the crux of my question. I think
that Hawaii game might be the only game that Stanford's favored in this year.
Yep, that's kind of the game I was playing.
Yeah,
this is an easy under for me.
Yeah, this is an under.
It's almost like if you want to double your money or something, you bet this, and I know the odds aren't great, but this is almost like, hey, do you want to like buy yourself a cheeseburger?
I have a hard time seeing Stanford winning 4 of these games this year. Like,
no, the second half of the schedule is brutal.
Mm-hmm.
So out of that second bye week, SMU on the road, Florida State at home, at Miami, Pitt at North Carolina, bye week, Cal, and then you finish the season with Notre Dame, the annual rivalry game with ND at home. No way. No way to get to 4.
What are they with Notre Dame coming into town? Like a 30-point home underdog?
Easily. Like, and they're probably 2-10, 2-9 going into that game.
Yeah. I think they can beat Hawaii. I think they might steal one from someone else. But yeah, looking a little bleak in Palo Alto this year.
It's going to be rough.
Yep. Under 3.5 -160.
Who wants that job? My God.
Yeah, weird time. Syracuse 5.5 over +125, under -155. As a reminder, what were they last year, Mike? 9-3, I think.
Yeah, and 9-3, but you're losing your quarterback, and dear God, this schedule sucks.
Yeah, this is the one again that we talked about before, where you might be favored in all 6 of your home games, and you might be underdogs on all 6 of your road games. Like substantial underdogs in all 6 road games. This is a tough year to try to follow it up kind of situation for Syracuse. I'm gonna say over. Basically, I think +125, saying that they need to make a bowl game. I think they can find a way to get there, but I don't feel great about it. That's for sure.
This is going to be a little bit of a regression for Syracuse, I think.
Mm-hmm. And who did Fran Brown piss off at the ACC office to get this schedule? My goodness.
Just a reminder, you open with Tennessee. You have Clemson at the end of September on the road. You also go on the road to SMU. And this is all before the second week of October. Hey, then you have a bye week. And then the second half of the season, you draw Georgia Tech and Miami on the road, as well as Notre Dame in South Bend.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. You could be a double-digit underdog in every game you play away from the Carrier Dome, basically. Tennessee, Clemson, SMU, Georgia Tech, Miami, and Notre Dame. Like you could be a double-digit dog in every one of those games.
You have to essentially... UConn, Colgate, Duke, Pitt, Carolina, Boston College. There's 6. That's probably not
if you run the table.
And you're probably not going to run the table, which means that you have to pick off a North Carolina. You have to pick off, I'm sorry, not North Carolina, a Georgia Tech. You have to pick off a Miami. You have to pick off an SMU. Because you're probably not beating Tennessee in the opener. You're probably not beating Notre Dame in the finale, later in the year. Yeah, I really like what he did in year 1, Fran Brown. Really like what he did. Man. Is there a scenario where they're maybe not that much worse than last year, just like from a roster standpoint, right?
Yeah.
But they end up being like not making a bowl game? I think that's on the table, where it's like, hey, really, I feel like they only took a slight step back from a roster standpoint, but the schedule was so brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, this is awful.
Yeah.
I mean, you're drawing potentially 3 playoff teams on the schedule. in Tennessee, Clemson, and Notre Dame. That's potentially 3 playoff teams.
Yeah. Yep. I'm going to say this too, by the way, and this is really not meant as a slight anywhere, but more just kind of pointing out things that are true. Syracuse in 1-score games last year beat Georgia Tech, lost to Stanford, beat UNLV, beat NC State, beat Virginia Tech, lost to Boston College, beat Cal, beat UConn, beat Miami. That's a lot of 1-score games that you won, which usually is much more like a 50% kind of proposition. And also, again, you're replacing your quarterback, and there's just a lot of things that probably went into those games that are not coming back this year. So, there is definitely some good potential for regression here. Again, I like a team trying to find a way to get bowl eligible. I think they could steal one of those road games for sure, but it's a pretty ballsy pick taking over 5.5 here. But I'm going to do it.
I think things need to go absolutely perfect, and they're not going to. So then you have to steal one, and that's like kind of the blueprint.
Yep.
I cannot.
Can't do it.
I cannot do it. I'm going to have to break with you here and say they are going to go 5-7. I can't do it. And I like Fran Brown, and I like what they did last year. This is just an awful, awful schedule.
It's brutal.
And I think they are certainly going to be in the mix. It's not something I'm going to bet. I think they're in the mix for 6. I think they'll be well enough coached to get to 6. I think they'll be in a lot of 1-score games again, and hope you don't regress to the mean.
Yep, exactly. 3 more here, Mike. Virginia, 6.5.
Yeah.
Tony Elliott not yet made a bowl game, and we're at 6.5 on the win total coming out of Vegas. How about that?
Yeah, plus 110.
Over plus 110, minus 140 to the under. I think if you're playing your odds, you got to go under here. And again, like schedule aside, just Tony Elliott's never made a bowl game. Like, why are we betting them to win at least 7 games this year?
Schedule's so easy.
And then it seems like they're getting a shot in the arm in talent too. I mean, which helps.
They have. I mean, we talked about this with Justin Ferber. Like, they attacked the transfer portal. They feel good about what they did in the portal. And I do think that this team is more talented. I think this is maybe the easiest schedule in the league. If not, maybe second or third easiest at worst.
Mm-hmm.
And Dennis agrees with me. And yes, I agree also. That is the main reason why Devin goes from calling for Carla Williams' head to claim a national title.
I think Devin Hamilton wants Tony Elliott fired and also thinks Virginia's going to win the national title. Like,
yeah. Can we do both? Can we make both happen?
Like, it might.
Yeah. I mean, this schedule is gettable. I actually like. See, it's one thing to think it. It's another to say it, It's one thing to think it. It's another to say it. I think they can get to 7-5.
They can.
I think they can get there. Coastal should be bad. NC State, huge question. William and Mary and Stanford. That's your first 4. Can you go 3-1 there?
That's 3 non-conference games, by the way.
Can you go 3-1 there? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You can.
So let's talk about 3-1 UVA going into the next 2 before the bye week, right? You have Florida State and Louisville. You're going to be an underdog in both, but I think the Florida State game at home especially is winnable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So worst case scenario, right? You're sitting at 3-3 going into the bye week.
Mm-hmm.
Washington State, first-year coach, a lot of talent gone. That's very winnable. Carolina, Cal, Wake, and Duke are the 4 before you get a bye week heading into the Virginia Tech game at home.
Oh, I just had a revelation, Mike. Can we call them Washington Forest this year?
Sure.
Not the actual Cougs from Pullman, but the Demon Deacs
Wake
might
Forest.
be Washington Forest this year.
The Washington Forest Demon Deacs. Led by advisor to the athletic department, Dave Clausen. And of course, Jake Dickert.
Washington State.
There it is.
Let's go with Washington Forest. That's easier.
We'll workshop it. How about that?
Yeah.
If you're 3-3 going into the bye, you essentially have to win 4 of your remaining 5 games. Sorry, 4 of your remaining 6. Washington State, UNC, Cal, Wake, Duke, and Virginia Tech. You've only beaten Virginia Tech twice in the last 2.5 decades. So even though you get that at home, let's call that a loss. And I think Virginia Tech's going to be gettable this year for UVA. I think it's a winnable game for them. But until they do it, let's just call that a loss.
That game being gettable has never mattered.
It never matters. It never matters. Literally mattered once with Bryce Perkins, and it took a late game interception. Essentially, it was not set in stone, and that was a team that went to the Orange Bowl.
Yep.
You gotta go 4-1 in the Washington State, Carolina, Cal, Wake, Duke stretch to get to 7. If you lose both Florida State and Louisville and go 3-1 in your first 4, I think 7 is doable. I think 6 is most likely. It would not shock me to see them go over this number. Maybe I can be convinced closer to the season. I think for now I'm going to lean under for the reason you just said. Elliott hasn't taken to a bowl game yet. The schedule is gettable, but it's still Virginia under Tony Elliott. We need to make sure that influx of talent is actually being coached well.
Yep.
So I think 6-6. I do think they go to a bowl game. I think the schedule is there to get to 6. I don't think that's a question. It's a matter of if they're going to take this thing to 7 or 8.
Right. I mean, if Chandler Morris is really, really good, then maybe. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair step to get to 6-6 this year and play a game in December or even January. So
welcome to Annapolis. We'll see you at the Military Bowl.
Get ready to learn 38 and rainy, buddy.
38 and drunk, buddy. Yeah. Same thing a couple of years ago.
There you go. Mike will be there. All right. Hokies, 6.5 over +135, under -165. Under.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to go 5-7 and fire Pry, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's going to be a tough way to start your year with South Carolina and then Vanderbilt. I mean, you might be 0-2 out the gate.
Yeah. I mean, those are 2 of your toughest games on the schedule. Georgia Tech is the only other one I see because I don't really know what Miami's going to be that late in the year. So I think definitively, I think you're an underdog there. I think you're an underdog against Louisville. But I mean, there's an argument to be made that Carolina and Vandy could be 2 of the toughest games of the year, and they're right out of the gate. And if you're 0-2 and you're Brent Pry and you've been struggling, is this team really do we talk about quitting at that point?
Oh man,
I don't know.
If you're 0-2 out the gate, and then you've got Old Dominion ready to come in, that's you know that Old Dominion's going to come in like a house of fire, ready to ruin someone's day. Man, that is a precarious spot to be.
It's got the East Carolina vibes from 2010 when Virginia Tech went out of the gate losing to Boise and James Madison. Of course, they went to the Orange Bowl that year. They rattled off 10 in a row, won the conference, and lost to Stanford in the ACC title game, in the Orange Bowl. Yeah. So, I mean, that was pretty good. I don't think that's going to happen. But, yeah, I mean, ODU, Wofford, NC State, Wake Forest. Even if you start 0-2, can you win the next 4 conceivably? Yes, going into that Georgia Tech game. That Georgia Tech game on the road in week 7 ends up being a pretty huge game if you're 4-2 at that point, as far as course of the season and what you're going to do. And it's right before a bye week, so it's kind of a you gotta have it game. I can see a path. So best case scenario, I think best case scenario for Virginia Tech is 8-4. I think most likely scenario is probably like 6-6. I think they're going to go 5-7. That's like my prediction. I don't think they're going to make a bowl game just because like I'm now relying on the coaching staff, and there's a lot of unknown there. And maybe that ends up being a good thing. Maybe the OC and DC help and the new O-line coach helps, and maybe that ends up being a good thing. But like what I've seen with Pry, it's like I got to rely on them. But the schedule is like not horrible. You don't have Notre Dame, you don't have Clemson, you don't have SMU, but I mean you do draw Louisville on the road, Georgia Tech on the road. I'm sorry, Louisville at home, Georgia Tech on the road, Florida State on the road. And then the South Carolina game in the opener, you're going to be like a 10 to 12 point dog. Vandy, you might be a home dog there. So, yeah, there are questions. I'm going to go 5-7. I think it's decidedly under.
Yeah, I wouldn't lay money at -165 on the under, but I certainly wouldn't be betting this team to win at least 7 games. No way.
No thanks.
Yep, under 6.5 for me. Last one, Mike. Wake Forest, Washington Forest, Washington State, whatever we're going to call them. 4.5 over +115, under -145. I'm kind of leaning towards the over here.
I am too.
Like, I kind of suspect that this whole situation with Jake Dickert might work out decently okay to start out, and Wake might hold their own here and surprise a couple teams. A lot of winnable games in the out of conference too.
Kennesaw State. Who are they playing in week 2? What is that?
Western Carolina?
Is that Western Carolina?
I think so.
All right. So Kennesaw State, Western Carolina. Sorry, guys. We're looking at a matrix logo schedule. I'm very sorry.
You get Delaware late in the year.
You have Delaware, taking their first year in the FBS, and I'm going to bring them to glory in CFB 26. I'll tell you that. Kennesaw State, Western Carolina. Winnable. Delaware, winnable. Okay, so you're 3, so you need 2 more. You're on the road at Oregon State.
That's not easy. I will say some of the home road splits here don't really help. Like, you'd really rather not go on the road to play Virginia Tech, to play Florida State, to play Virginia, to play Duke. Like, those are those kind of coin tossy kind of games that you'd rather have at home. For the sake of the record and all that. But like, I don't expect that Wake would be just like completely out of their depth in almost any of those games. Maybe Florida State, if Florida State is like semi back, but
the first bye week for Wake Forest is in week 4. They go Kennesaw State, Western Carolina, NC State. If they beat NC State in week 3, I think this is going over. I think you're going to get to 5 because you're at 3-0 going into your first bye week, and you still have Virginia, North Carolina, Duke, and Delaware all on the schedule. And I think Duke is going to be pretty good, but that's the finale, and it's a rivalry game, and it's right down the street.
But not like overwhelmingly good. Like,
right. Like,
it's not crazy to think that Wake could beat them.
The talent's going to be there where, you can win that game. And same with Carolina. Like, I think Carolina's probably going to be better, right? I think we're all in agreement there. Carolina and Duke are probably both going to be better than Wake, but I think that's a game that you could get. Virginia, I think, is a game you can get. But there are some tough ones here too. Like the Georgia Tech. So after you play that first 3 and you have the bye week, home against Georgia Tech, away at Virginia Tech and Blacksburg, away at Oregon State before your second bye week. That's tough. That's a tough 3-game stretch.
Yeah, not easy.
That's tough. Got to beat Virginia Tech probably. Out of those 3, it's probably the worst of those 3 teams. So, yeah. But I don't hate the over. I would consider betting this one.
Getting +115. That's one of the ones that I like of all the odds that I've looked at here. So, might be worth a swing.
They'll be well coached.
Yeah, for sure. Mike, that's all the teams. We have one more set of futures to look at. ACC championship.
This will be quick. This will be quicker.
This is very quick. Odds on favorite, and I think it's technically not odds on if they're +105 as they are, but Clemson is the defined favorite here. Second, Miami +375, and then pretty quickly you get down to Louisville at +800, 8-1. SMU 9-1, Georgia Tech 14-1, Florida State 16-1, and then an even bigger drop off: Duke 25-1, North Carolina 28-1, Virginia Tech 33, NC State 40, Syracuse 40, Pittsburgh 40, Boston College 60, Cal 80, Virginia 80, Wake Forest 300, and Stanford 300-1 to win the conference. I cannot imagine putting, like, even just taking a flyer on anybody outside of that top 6. I think Clemson,
Correct.
Miami, Louisville, SMU, Georgia Tech, Florida State. There is basically zero chance in my mind that anybody else wins this conference.
I don't even think I can go outside the top 5. I don't see Florida State really in any way, shape, or form playing well enough with that roster with Thomas Castellanos at quarterback. I refuse to live in a world where Thomas Castellanos is winning the ACC title as a starting quarterback. No shot. No shot.
Yeah.
I don't care how well he fits with Malzahn. No shot.
I feel like there is enough, like, talent according to the recruiting services on that Florida State roster that, like, it's not impossible to imagine a scenario where they just, like, everything just clicks again the way that it did in 2023 and maybe the stars align kind of thing. But you're kind of starting to push it with needing 16-1 on that. I don't know if that's actually appropriate odds for that. So if I were interested in betting this, I think the only 2 teams I would actually consider putting actual money on would be Clemson and Louisville. I think. I don't like Miami at inside of 4-1. I don't think plus 375 is good enough for me to bet them for this. But Louisville at 8-1, yes. And Clemson is probably who I think is going to win the conference anyways. So
yeah, I think the only team I think there are 2 teams. There are 2 teams I'm probably entertaining outside of Clemson. It's Louisville and SMU, but we talked about SMU's schedule, right? Now, if SMU runs the gamut and they get into a game with Clemson again, we just watched that ACC title game. So that was fun. That was a really fun game. We just watched that. So, and I think if SMU runs through that schedule that I think is harder this year than it was last year, I think you're feeling pretty good about them in the title game, at least, like putting a competitive team on the field, obviously.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would consider SMU at 9-1 and Louisville at 8-1. I don't think Georgia Tech's got enough to win the conference. Like, I don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough talent to win the conference. Now, if we had odds to, like, get to Charlotte, I'd be interested in that. Then if we're talking about, like, teams that can get there, then let me see what Miami's odds are. But if you're giving me plus 375 to win the conference, I'm probably not going to be feeling good about their odds to actually get there. But I would be interested in Georgia Tech to get there. I would like to see Florida State's number to possibly get there. I just don't know. Yeah, we'll have to. We can pull those numbers up somewhere, I'm sure. But yeah, I think Clemson's my pick to win the conference as we sit here in July anyway. But I think SMU and Louisville are the 2 that I could see potentially mucking things up a little bit in a conference title game with Clemson. Yeah. And depending on how that Georgia Tech Clemson game goes in week 3, maybe you're feeling good about the rematch. Georgia Tech runs the table against Charlotte. Maybe feel differently about it, but.
So I found it a little while ago, like almost an hour ago, and Dennis pointed out there is a line out, like one of those game of the year lines. They already have a line on Clemson minus 8.5 in Atlanta against Georgia Tech in week 3, which feels a little light in a way. But I mean, here's the thing: is like if Georgia Tech were to beat Clemson in week 3, I'm not going to tell you I think it's going to happen. But stranger things have certainly happened. But if Georgia Tech were to win that game, I think they are definitely in the driver's seat to go to Charlotte because basically you've got the toughest one already in the bag. And can you go 6-1 from there, go 7-1 in the conference and get there? Absolutely. Yep. My problem is Clemson might also run the table. And if you play them again, I don't know that you're beating them a second time.
I don't know if you're beating them twice, right?
So that's a little bit of where I run into it. Is maybe your best chance if you're trying to win the conference is lose to them the first time.
Actually losing to them, yeah, which oddly will not put you in the driver's seat though. So now you got to make things up the rest of the year. Yeah.
And then maybe try to slay Goliath with your second shot. Like, I don't know. So it's, I think there's scenarios you can consider there. Because again, yeah, you're kind of banking on Clemson to lose a second time in conference. And I mean, there are opportunities. They got to go to Louisville on a Friday night and some things. But again, that's where it's tricky. Where like we got a number of teams with tough out of conference schedules, but like that doesn't matter for Charlotte. So
yep.
Anyways, yeah, probably Clemson and Louisville and maybe SMU. I could see it with Georgia Tech. I need a bigger number for Miami.
Certainly.
Florida State probably pushing it, and then nothing after that. I'm not interested.
No.
All right. Those are your win totals. Those are your ACC championship odds. Mike, do you feel like we've kicked off preview season?
That was good. Got the juices flowing. I thought we were fairly efficient, even though we went an hour and 35 minutes. There's just a lot of teams. There's 17 of them. I mean, what are you going to do?
Welcome back to the new ACC with 17 teams.
I don't feel like we sat on one. Maybe I'll listen back and I'll feel differently about it. I don't feel like we sat on one particular team for too long, though. I feel like we kept it moving. That was just a lot to talk about there.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So this has been fun. Appreciate the folks that were here with us in the chat. I know it's been late at night. We're finishing this up and it's almost 1 a.m. on the East Coast and it's on a Thursday night. So, good luck with school and work and everything else tomorrow. We will be back. It is preview season officially, and we got 17 teams to record previews for. So keep it tuned here. Those are going to start coming your way here very, very soon. Please support our sponsors, section103.com. Use promo code GOACC for 10% off your first order at checkout. Roback.com. Use promo code GOACC20 for 20% off there. Home Field Apparel. Got a promo code that is scrolled across the bottom of this video like 1,000 times by now. Go find it there. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, Mike. Anything else before we work on getting out of here?
Nope.
Are you getting the video game?
I am.
I'm gonna give it one more swing. I had some serious technical difficulties last year.
You did.
I'm gonna have to hurry up and try to make things work this year because I need to figure out if it's going to work or not within the refund window because did not figure that out last year and I was not happy about it.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, all right. You want to come back and start previewing some teams?
Let's do it, man. It's time. We ride again.
'Tis the season. Most wonderful time of the year.
What a long off season it was. We recorded like 4 times.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've been busy, you could say, at the very least. So
certainly.
Anyways. All right, we're going to get out of here. Appreciate you guys listening, especially the folks that stuck around to the end. Appreciate the folks in the chat with us tonight. Had a lot of good conversation there. Looking forward to getting some preview content out your way coming very, very soon. So hit that subscribe button and keep it here as you will, and you'll find everything we got coming your way. So we will talk to you again very, very soon as we get into this. For Mr. Mike McDaniel, I am Joey Weaver. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll talk to you again very, very soon. Until next time. Go ACC.